our audience's perspective on being socially active and socially progressive in a certain way hasn't really changed. If anything, we've probably been publishing more content that's directly in response to something that's happened politically. Again, with like sort of this solutions-oriented slant. But our audience is just as, impassioned and emboldened as ever for a more equal and a more fair world.
Like, I might be making this up, but I feel like I saw a post on Upworthy recently that had something to do with trans rights. And it had a little bit more of an edge than Upworthy of the Obama era, Yeah.
I think that's a great point. I think it's like, as a publisher, we have the privilege to be able to spread messages around things that we find are super important. And so if in this era of like fighting against, an administration that chooses not to see certain people as human beings or chooses not to see certain people as, equal, as deserving rather of like a straight white man, then we're going to use our platform to tell stories of why they do. So like, stick it to the man.
Thank you for that.
Sure.
So I'm going to just move on to the next one because so many themes are going to come through, I think, all the questions. But how do you think millennials define progress in their own life? What does that mean to them? Define might be a weird way to say it, but
yeah, that's a good question. I'm trying to think of my own life. I'm like, how do I define it?
Personal progress,
right.
Like this is the kind of life that I want to be building. It looks like this.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting, like knowing the context of the Johnny Walker campaign, whereas for the past 20 years, it's sort of been this more personal journey. I think it is shifting into this more global consciousness sort of, space where in my life, obviously I work for an organization that has super strong opinions and values surrounding this particular way to view the world. But I do find that, my friends and people my age we kind of don't have a choice but to be thinking of the world more holistically now. Like it's not, and again, I know I'm biased, like I live in New York City, you're exposed to every sort of type of person, and that's why I love living here. But I think we're at this like critical moment in time where we're faced with lots of challenges, whether it be, dealing with a president who acts like a child or, climate change, like setting California on fire, literally as we speak. It's like, these are issues that are in front of our face. Like they're not in textbooks. They're not in, some far off fantasy land. We're seeing them play out in real time. And so to not have, an opinion or to not have sort of like a feeling one way or another about how we can help tackle these things in our lifetime would feel, kind of like in my mind, sort of like inappropriately removed from real life and being realistic about the world we live in. I think it would feel a little myopic to be able to like choose to see what's happening and choose to not see what's happening again, given that we have access to pretty much any information we want at our fingertips.
Yeah. So am I hearing you right that, given the challenges that you not only see but experience, when it comes to your own life, and you exemplify this working at a place like Upworthy, you want your life's work or whatnot to be impacting these things?
I think so. I think eventually, hopefully we'll get to a point where we, we as publishers and businesses and corporations and politicians can view the world more holistically so that things aren't so siloed into like, okay, this is what we do as a business and this is our CSR budget, or like this is what we do as, my normal daily life and here's when I like volunteer for an hour. It's like we need to sort of integrate that, sentiment of doing good into everything. Like we need to integrate this idea of giving, treating our neighbors like they were our family, or treating the environment as though, it were our home, which it is, in a way that's just integrated more holistically into our everyday life. So, when we see companies doing the right thing and taking a stand to eliminate plastic straws or, using more sustainable fabrics or fibers in like their fashion, sources, etc. That is a really powerful move to show the world that actually, we're doing this because we don't have a choice, but also because it's the right thing to do. It's like, gone are the days of sort of just like standing on the sidelines and saying, oh, well, someone else will figure it out. It's like, no, when a huge corporation comes in and says we're actively making a choice to show the world that this matters and here's why, it changes the world.
Awesome. And so I don't know if it is really a separate question, but how do you think millennials think about the idea of collective progress? Like they wouldn't use those words per se, but,
right.
Sort of, well, I don't want to put words in your mouth. I'll let you just.
You can put words in my mouth. I'm like, I don't care.
But I guess, there is such a sense of collectivism in this generation. And so what does it mean to progress together? What are the issues or?
Yeah. So I think, again, I can't downplay the role of technology and just being able to at least act as like a mobilizer between people in my generation. I have a group thread in my texts with other women in my life that are social impact oriented, where we basically say like, hey, I'm going to this meetup for, a specific cause if anyone wants to join me. It's not even to say that like all of us do the same things at the same time, but even like a place to share articles that are interesting or share activities or, films that might be of interest. Like it's become sort of like a social, an aspect of my social life, I think technology enables us to do that really easily. So that's great. I think when it comes to collective progress, I'm so happy you guys are talking to the founders or the people who work at the Women's March, because that's something that I'll never forget in my lifetime as being a huge, a huge symbol that we, again, feel ready to sort of push back on things that we don't agree with or take a stance on things that are going to be like pretty defining moments in our lifetime, for better or for worse. And so, I went to the Women's March with my two sisters and my mom. Most of my friends did too, like traveled from New York to DC. It's like, I think we're in a time now where, yes, it's important to like share things on the internet. It's important to like have these collective conversations, but it's also shifting into a space of actually showing up, and like the difference between talking about something and actually taking an action is becoming more palpable now that we feel so connected to what's going on in society.
Great. So I want to think about like issue areas. I'll just tell you some of the things that we've been looking at without like for any generation. It's like economic progress, career progress, sociocultural, we're looking at environment, and then like lifestyle, like food and drink and sport, entertainment and music and all this kind of stuff. So I want to talk about like where is collective progress going well? Like where is there momentum of change and progress happening for millennials and Gen Z?
Yeah. I think environmentally we're headed in the right direction. I think people are like more in tune with what's happening with the environment. They're able to accept that humans have a pretty big part in, contributing to environmental degradation, but we also have, and because of that, we have the same responsibility to contribute in curbing it. I think, however, there's also a long way to go where we don't have that much time, and like we kind of have to, put pressure on our politicians and our representatives to prioritize that.
But the belief in the consciousness is there. That's what you're saying.
I think so. I mean, I think it's, again, I think it's pretty easy. Actually, the founder of Upworthy is a guy named Eli Pariser, who